Jim, I don't understand the headlines, so help me out here. You wrote, in 21st century Quebec, if you want votes, you still pour asphalt. What are we talking about here?
This is the thing, because a couple of days ago I was talking to you about, Christine Clochette. She's announcing for the 132, and it's a strip of highway between St. Constant and Delton, and it's going to be an urban boulevard, blah, blah, blah. And now the same government, the CAD government, is announcing that it's going to call for tenders to continue its widening of Highway 55, the infamous Highway 55, which is in desperate need of a widening. But that said, it's so funny because when I see these announcements so close to an election, I cannot help of the Liberal MNA, Gérard Villerec, who he's passed away. But back in the day, this guy, I think he paved over Gaspé twice. But this is, the reality here is that we can talk about identity and language and all this stuff that gets us, setting our hair on fire in Montreal. But, and we have sort of touched on this on other topics. But when you're out in a region, you want to get someone's attention, repave the road, fix the road, make it safer, make it bigger, make it better. Because a lot of times that road plays a bigger role in your life than any kind of, abstract government policy. So it's kind of funny to see that, yes, it is the 21st century, but some things never change, Aaron, and pouring concrete during elections period is one of them. So it's going to be very interesting to see how many more of these announcements we see, and more specifically, where they're going to occur.
By the way, Jim, the cynic in me suggests it's one thing to promise them, another thing to build them, though, right?
Well, of course, but that's the beauty of it, because they always say, we hope to have this finished in a year's time. Implicit being, if we're not around, you're kind of out of luck there, buddy. So you may want to think about that when you walk into when you approach the ballot box.
By the way, if I can, just speaking of pouring asphalt, I asked a question today based on this traffic survey that came out, a global traffic survey. Yeah. You got a plan for how to make traffic in this city better?
Yeah, and I've been covering this story for 25 years, and I'm sorry, it boils down to the same thing. Construction companies can do whatever the hell they want, whenever the hell they want to in Montreal. They can tie up traffic. They can abandon a work site. They can be behind on schedule. They can cost us millions of dollars. And the city of Montreal does absolutely squat about it. And as long as that situation continues, as long as there are no consequences for construction companies that basically grab this city by the throat for years at a time and don't let go, we're going to have the same problems. I mean, Montreal is a war zone. Who's going to come back? We'll be like, maybe folks will come back. You never know. But right now, in this particular context, people don't have the time, as I say, to wait around to figure out, in this case, what the city of Montreal wants to be when it grows up when it comes to dealing with traffic. And that's exactly what is happening here.
So this idea, and I think it's one of the ideas that a few people brought up, when we built our roads, built our major highways, is it fair to say politicians had no idea then that so many people would be owning cars at some point?
No, they knew. They just didn't care. And the fact is, we even knew, I can recall actually writing that when you build a new highway in Quebec, it fills up with even more traffic within like 6 months than the previous situation that caused the highway to be widened or whatever. We are huge consumers. Quebecers are huge consumers of cars. The bigger, the better, apparently. And the car park has been growing exponentially. And to tolerate any kind of delay, to tolerate any kind of incompetence when it comes to fixing the road net, yes, even on the island of Montreal, I think is absolutely unacceptable. And what I find particularly interesting, though, is you were mentioning maybe a traffic tax or whatever. I'm all in favor of that. I mean, make it as difficult as possible, make it as costly as possible, certainly to come downtown. I don't agree with the caller who said eliminate bus lanes. I think that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. But all that said, I think if you need to be downtown, you'll pay it. And if you don't need to be downtown, guess what? You'll perhaps park outside of the zone. But once again, you need parking. And maybe you either walk in or take the metro in. But the fact is, there has never been a rational plan when it comes to governing traffic. And the reason for that is there's never been a rational plan when it comes to controlling construction on the island of Montreal.
By the way, to that idea about congestion tax, which I brought up and saying it works in other cities, and in New York, it's actually been quite successful. It's raised a lot of money, which can actually go into infrastructure. I just want to point out it's not because, as soon as you say tax, everyone starts saying, "Oh, don't we pay enough tax?" And I will point out that a congestion tax only applies to people who use it. Nobody else pays for it. It's just you. You want access downtown, you pay a fee to do it. That's
I seem to recall that it was the city of London that may have pioneered this whole thing. I know, and you know what? People were screaming like banshees, and it worked. It absolutely worked.
And it works in New York too. So there you go. All right. Your next item: Canada's U.S. boycott. Will it transcend the Trump presidency? What's going on here?
Well, they got the figures in there. It's kind of like downing with faint praise, because it turns out that trips to the U.S. from Canada increased slightly over the past few months. The first month, I guess it would be May, it was, I think, like 9%. The second month, it was 1.9% overall, 3.2% for June. Here's the thing. Those numbers compared to 2025, well, it's a slight increase. Compared to 2024, we're still down 28.9%. When it comes June to June, June 2024, June 2026. And my question, and maybe down the road you want to ask it of the listeners too, is has not going to the States become normal to you? I have a sneaking suspicion that is what we're going to see. I think a lot of people turned around, took a deep breath after they were infuriated by Donald Trump, who recycled his picture of him with a map with the U.S. flag over all of North America, including Canada, in the wake of the Gordie Howe fiasco. Could it be that people are finally figuring out, maybe I don't want to go to a place where my dollar buys me 71 cents? Yeah. And indeed, a lot of people in the States are saying, if we're drawing people in, we've made all kinds of inducements, i.e. taking money at par, offering all kinds of, bells and whistles just to get people just across the border. We're talking about Vermont and New York. But the thing is, it's kind of weird because in my opinion, we developed a lot of habits through adversity. I think a lot of the lifestyle changes that we developed during the pandemic are still with us today. But I also think this elbows up, whatever you want to call it, this infuriation over Donald Trump may well transcend his departure from politics. I think the idea that maybe I can spend my vacation someplace other than the U.S. Yeah. And indeed, in Canada, but you know what? Europe, you name it, whatever, as long as I'm not going to crazy town for my vacation, that may become the norm rather than the exception. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out in the next couple of years. It's
funny. I heard Trudy talking about it this morning, and she told a story about her husband who they were going to go take a cruise, but the ship was leaving from New York. Mm-hmm. And her husband, I think it's Kevin, right, didn't even want to go just to have to do that, right, to go to New York to get on that ship. So, I mean, you can take it to extremes, I guess, as well, right? But I think to your point, Jim, a 71 or a 70-cent dollar, not very, not one of those things you're going to run there to take advantage of. There's nothing to take advantage of.
But I got to tell you, I mean, I've met Kevin maybe twice in my life, but the fact of the matter is, and as a veteran cruise enthusiast, you wouldn't get me because, whether it's New York, whether it's Miami, whether it's Lauderdale, I ain't going back, buddy. Yeah. I don't want to be mistaken for somebody from El Salvador and wind up, I don't know, in a holding cell in Montana.
I get it.
So I'm sorry, but here's the thing. What if that becomes the new normal? What is that going to mean? Because it's a huge chunk of change for the U.S. That tourism.
Did you happen to hear Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, when this first came up? Because of course, so many Canadians go to Florida, and he was told that it cost the economy, I don't know, $3 billion or $400 million, whatever it was, and he laughed it off as a rounding error. Yeah, well,
guys like DeSantis, I don't know. I don't want to go too off topic, buddy, but I got a sneaking suspicion this is going to be a very interesting month for U.S. politics. I think a lot of things are converging at once. And I'm not just talking about Iran. I'm talking about this whole, and God help us, I know we'll be talking about his so-called speech on Thursday night. Gee, do you think he's going to suggest the next, the midterms are going to be completely rigged? But all that said, I think we're hitting, we're seeing a lot of converging forces heading at high velocity towards a very, very big brick wall.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, thank you.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back
2010s, the decade.
to the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd,
And more. All your decade-defining favorites all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away.